You don't build resilience in the spotlight, you build it in the shadows, brick by brick. This is Purpose-Driven Progress, and as always, I'm your host, Jacob Hicks, speaker, success coach, and longtime sales pro. Around here, we keep it real and we keep it tactical. If you're building something meaningful in your business or in your life, you're exactly where you need to be. And today, we are diving into a more entrepreneurial strategy, I would say, but something that still applies a ton to salespeople too. It's called Feed the Foundation. The reason I've been thinking about this strategy for, several weeks, even a couple of months maybe now at this point, because I feel like a lot of times in business in general, but especially in entrepreneurship and in sales too, really, we always talk about our goals, right? Like, where are we going to? Like, hey, I just got this new quota. I just started at a new startup and we're breaking in all these brand new territories. I just started a new business. I'm thinking about taking it full time, or I've been full time. And I'm thinking about, driving towards like better sales strategies or sales systems, or building out my crew or my team. And those are all really important things, right? But it got me thinking, what are we really building those things on? Like, what are we building those things on, and what are we building those things towards, and what are they for? Because the big goals are always really, really sexy, right? Like saying things like, oh my gosh, I was 200% to goal last year. Like saying that kind of stuff, it feels really good. And seeing your name like on the top of a sales list, or seeing, talking to your accountants if you're an entrepreneur and saying like, hey, these, we're doing crazy good. Like, we've just doubled what we did last year. Like, that's a fantastic feeling, isn't it? But at the end of the day, all those things are fantastic, and they, at least for me, they can give me a bit of a rush. Maybe you guys feel that same way too. It's really not always the most important thing. It's the daily consistent things that really kind of drive what we're doing over the long term. A favorite quote of mine is, strong trees don't grow overnight. They're fed slowly and steadily. Strong trees don't grow overnight. They're fed slowly and steadily. Now, I've dealt with this kind of thing firsthand, both in my sales career, but also, diving into my coaching business too, because again, we want to drive, don't we? At least I do. Like, I like grinding, I like showing up every day. As weird as it might be to say, I like, waking up early, getting into the gym, and then grinding on new content or coaching strategies, or, working with clients one-on-one or in groups or doing a speaking event. I like showing up and doing those things and working for 8, 10, 12 hours at a time. Like, that's fun for me. And I like that feeling of accomplishment, or even an exhaustion sometimes I feel at the end of the day. But again, it's the small things that really drive those things, because if our foundation isn't solid, if what we're building on isn't solid, then those things can ultimately end up feeling kind of empty. And if our foundation isn't strong, then what we're building on top of them can ultimately crumble, or even just fall over and topple. Because it's not always about the hustle. It's not about those big, flashy wins. It's about the stuff that grounds you, the stuff that regulates your nervous system, the stuff that reminds you who you are and why you're doing what you're doing, the stuff that connects you with others, and the things that ultimately connect you with your purpose. Because I feel like, at least in today's day and age, and like in my sales career and my professional career, a lot of times we can really lose sight of our purpose. It's all too easy. So today, that's what we're really going to be diving into, is making sure that we're staying connected to the things that are really important with small, daily, consistent activity. So I've put together a few different strategies. It's really some examples, honestly. And I want you guys to pick one or two maybe and try them out and just see kind of what they do for you. So the first of these, few strategies that I really love these, because these are the things that we aren't going to see an immediate return on. Meaning, these aren't the things that you can do once or twice or even maybe 10 times and see an immediate result. But these are the things that if you do them daily over the course of months and even years, you will see long-term impact in your business, but then also in your life. So I really want you guys to pay attention to some of these things, okay? The first isn't necessarily a business one, but it's one that I'm pretty passionate about, because it's one that I grew up with, and it's one that I've seen impact both ways, when we have it and when we don't. And this one might be a bit of a shocker, might surprise you a little bit, but it's weekly dinners with people that you love, or it's weekly dinners with your family. Now, I was doing some research on some of these things, because I don't know how you guys feel, but sometimes I just get an idea in my head And I think it's true, but then I do some research and I realize, oh, maybe it's not true, or I just don't have maybe the stats to back it up. So I was doing some research on this one in particular, particularly around what the impact can be on having weekly dinners with your family. Now, this was surprising to me. It's that 30% of families regularly eat dinner together. And in a study, it was at least once a week, which that was kind of surprising to me. And I mean, I get it though. I mean, especially in today's day and age, like it's all too easy to, plop down in front of the TV or get on your phone all the time. Or, the kids have this, that, and the third going on, and you're running to this and that and the everything else. You just don't have time to really sit down and have a meal. But only 30% are actually doing that on a regular basis. Now, this was really interesting to me. 80% of teens say family dinner is when they're most likely to talk to their parents. 80% of teens said that. And I know for me, I mean, just thinking back to my teenage years, which weren't all that long ago, maybe, I just remember because my parents kind of forced me to do some of those things, and I really appreciate it now. Looking back, I was kind of grumbly about like, oh my gosh, I don't want to do this. I want to, go watch TV, or I want to play my video games, or I want to go hang out with my friends or whatever. And there's maybe not necessarily anything wrong with some of those things in moderation, but I still think about how that was probably the time when I was, I was feeling grumpy and crabby teenager that I was, maybe still am. That was still the time that I wanted to talk to my parents about some of the more serious stuff or the harder conversations. 80% of teens say they'd rather have dinner with their family than they would with their peers. I was again doing some research on this particular topic, and I came across another podcast actually where this gal, Ann Fishel of the Family Dinner Project, which I'll include a link to that. She sat down with Jill Anderson at the EdCast. That's a Harvard Business podcast, and they were talking through just some of these topics and some of these issues around family dinner and what kind of the long-term impact is. Now, this might be a little dull, but I'm just going to read kind of a bit of an excerpt from that particular podcast. Now, this is Ann Fishel talking to Jill Anderson. So, there have been more than 20 years of dozens of studies that document that family dinners are great for the body, the physical health, the brains, and academic performance, and the spirit or the mental health. And in terms of nutrition, cardiovascular health is better in teens. There's lower fat and sugar and salt in home-cooked meals, even if you don't try all that hard. There's more fruit and fiber and vegetables and protein in home-cooked meals and lower calories. Kids who grow up having family dinners when they're on their own tend to eat more healthily and to have lower rates of obesity. Then the mental health benefits are just incredible. Regular family dinners are associated with lower rates of depression, anxiety, and substance abuse and eating disorders, tobacco use and early teenage pregnancy, and higher rates of resilience and higher self-esteem. Let me read that last part again because I think that's really important. Regular family dinners are associated with lower rates of depression and anxiety and substance abuse and eating disorders and tobacco use and early teenage pregnancy and higher rates of resilience and higher self-esteem. Look at all those benefits. Lower rates of all the stuff that we don't want, and we are more resilient and we have better self-esteem when we spend time with our family. Who knew, right? Now, this begs the question, how many dinners do we have to have? So here is what Ann has to say about that. The number isn't all that critical. The secret sauce is it enjoyable? Do kids feel that when they speak, somebody wants to listen to what they have to say? Is there not much criticism or anger or conflict at the table? These are the things that I think families really should focus on. Now, I think that's true, in family, obviously, since they're talking about it here at Harvard, right? But also, just in business, right? Are we having fun? I don't have to be inappropriate and unprofessional, but are we having fun? Are we, when we're talking to somebody, are we doing it so we can respond, or are we actually actively listening to them, trying to understand their perspective, where they're coming from? I've talked about it a lot, but coming from curiosity is still one of the best strategies, I think, in business and in sales and just in life in general. Coming from curiosity as much as you can, and not in a snarky way, which I could be guilty of, but just in a true, genuine trying our best to understand where the other person is coming from. So is it enjoyable? Do the people that are sitting across from, do they actually feel like you are actually listening to them and trying to understand them? 80% of kids, teenagers especially, choose their families over screen times or hanging out with their peers. which I thought was wild. So imagine just being intentional with your time for, I don't know, Saturday night or Sunday night or whatever kind of makes the most sense for you and your family and your situation, to actually sit down and say, hey, we are going to have family dinner together. We're going to sit down and we're going to talk and we're going to hang out. They went on to say in that podcast, which I thought was really fun, because like I said, they were talking about like these, nuclear families where like they have the two parents and the kids, right? But then they also showed an example of a single dad who was divorced and had 2 or 3 kids and only got to see them on the weekends. And he, was part of this group that Aunt Official started, the Family Dinner Project. And you want to try to apply this, but he's having a hard time with his kids, trying to get them to sit down and actually, chat or whatever they were doing. So we did something kind of fun. There's that movie that came out, I don't know, a handful of years ago now, called Ratatouille, where the mouse or the rat or whatever he is helping that chef make pasta and stuff and doing well. So this dad decided, well, let's try to make it a little more fun, get my kids off the screens a little bit. And he decided, okay, well, we are going to make Ratatouille together, and then we're going to watch Ratatouille and compare ours to theirs. There's something kind of fun like that. So it doesn't have to be like super intense conversation or anything, but it can just be, again, something kind of fun and enjoyable where the kids feel like they're heard. So I want you to imagine for a second, is that if you were intentional with your time and hopefully you can find like that one evening a week and actually have a true family dinner together. Like, what would that do for you in your personal life, then also in your business life? Because things would hopefully become a little more solid at home. That's the first of these strategies. The second one, I'm sure you probably have heard about it before. It's the daily gratitude practice. Now, this, again, doesn't have to be anything super intense where you're spending, hours a day being grateful for everything under the sun. I mean, it can be that, and that's, great if you have time for that. I don't. So what I do, what I've heard a lot of other folks do, is either in the morning, I like to do in the morning, or maybe right before you go to bed, is to write down just 3 things, right? And make sure you write them down, to actually write down 3 things that you are grateful for. Now, this one is particularly near and dear to my heart, because there was a few years ago, I was working with a gentleman who was he had just gotten a job and realized it was a really bad fit job. Maybe you've heard me tell this story before. We were working together, and like he was like, man, he hated his job. It's the truth. It was a bad fit job, which, I mean, all of us have experienced that at some point in our lives, right? And we were talking through some strategies and things, and we were talking through gratitude piece of it. And he decided that he was going to email me as his coach every single day for a new reason that he was grateful. And it didn't stop there, which was really fun. He decided to send me a new reason that he was grateful for his bad fit job, which I thought was really mature, showed a lot of integrity, I thought. Because, I mean, how much of us are like in a crappy situation and we decide to try to find that silver lining, that reason to be grateful for it? I know that sometimes I haven't. So find just a few things that you're grateful for. And again, they don't have to be like super intense things. They can just be, I'm really grateful that I have a bed to sleep in. I'm really grateful that I have a roof over my head. I'm grateful that I have food in my belly or food in my fridge. Grateful for, my wife or my husband or my significant other or my kids. Just, small things. Like, it doesn't have to be super intense, but just find those things, because ultimately we say like attitude or gratitude, right? Maybe you've heard that saying before, but I think it's backwards. I think it's gratitude that leads to our attitude. And it's these small things, because when we are focused on the gratitude, it helps to reduce depression. There's less anxiety. We have better heart health. We relieve stress. We have better sleep. And I don't know about you, but I would love a little bit better sleep. So actually write it down and you can pinpoint exactly what you're thankful for. That's where it can get really fun. So for example, like let's say you're thinking, okay, I'm grateful that I have a place to sleep. Like, I like my bed. Well, what is it about your bed that you're grateful for? Like, why do you love it? Why are you particularly grateful for that today? So actually be really specific as you can, because it ultimately helps to redirect your thoughts. And I'll include a link, do some more research that I was doing on that particular topic if you guys want to read a little bit more about that. Our third of these 5 strategies is spiritual or faith practice. Now, I know this isn't for everybody, and doesn't have to, like, the thing with this kind of thing is it doesn't have to look the same for everyone. Like, some folks like going to church. I like going to church. Some folks would rather get out in nature. So do that. Just find those small things. It can be prayer, scripture, meditation, Something that just reminds you that it's not all on your shoulders, ultimately. Now, there's kind of like two camps. Like I said, there's a kind of what I would call like more the religious based, and there's more the spiritual base. And it's kind of a spectrum, right? Like we kind of fall in, like in various places. But on the religion side, I'm going to read this out to you. Religion gives people something to believe in, provides a sense of structure, and typically offers a group of people to connect with over similar beliefs. These facets can have a large positive impact on mental health, and research suggests that religiosity reduces suicide rates, alcoholism, and drug use. Now, some of the reasons it works so well, honestly, is the community piece, like they were talking about. It initiates a social connection with other members, creates a sense of belonging to a group, offers trustworthy and safe social engagement. There's ritual to it, helps people to cope with difficult life situations. It provides structure, regularity, and predictability. And there's other, like the teachings. Now, on the spirituality side, spirituality is a sense of connection to something bigger than ourselves. It helps a person look within and understand themselves while also figuring out the greater answer of how they fit into the rest of the world. In other words, it helps people understand their interpretation of the meaning of life. Spirituality also incorporates healthy practice for the mind and body, which positively influences mental health and emotional well-being. Here are some of these positive benefits. It's individuality, enhances a sense of self, focus on individual connections to what they believe in and their own personal growth, which, as you guys know, I'm a big fan of personal growth, and accepts any person, whether they're part of the religion or not. Now, the mindfulness is really fun because it encourages meditation and self-reflection, leads to a meaningful life philosophy, like feeling connected to others, prompts expression in any form, such as art, poetry, myth, religious practices, and it unites us with our surroundings. Now, this next strategy, or 4 or 5 here, is movement that feels good. Now, movement can mean a lot of different things. Exercise has been covered ad nauseum in other places. Ultimately, this isn't a health and wellness podcast, but this is something that I think that every entrepreneur, every salesperson, everybody should be doing to some degree. Now, this doesn't have to be anything super intense, like going to the gym for 3 hours every single day, waking up at 4 o'clock and going to bed at 2 o'clock. Like, it doesn't have to be anything super, super and crazy intense. But let me list out some of the reasons that I think you should be doing some regular movement that feels good. It maintains a healthy weight and lose body fat, prevent or manage various conditions, including heart disease, stroke, high blood pressure, cancer, and type 2 diabetes, stroke, depression, anxiety, lots of types of cancer, arthritis, falls, improves cardiovascular fitness, strengthens your bones and muscles, improves your muscle endurance, increases energy levels, improves your mood, cognition, memory, and sleep, improves your balance and coordination, strengthen immune system, reduce stress and tension. Did you get all that? Needless to say, see, getting up and moving regularly with, walks, getting your 10,000 steps in every day, going to the gym and doing some lifting or exercising, or whatever is kind of, whatever you kind of enjoy and are willing to do on a consistent basis is really, really critical to our mental health and ultimately to our foundation. And the last thing, again, we've covered this before, is sleep. I think it's so interesting. Like when I don't know, maybe this is just me, but when I was younger, especially in my 20s, I slept, right? Sort of. But sleep was just something, I don't know. I just didn't think about it all that much. And thinking about it, like now, I realize, sleep is a third of our life, right? A third of our life. You're supposed to get 6 to 8 or whatever hours every single day. So that's a third. So are you doing it with intention? So are you putting your phone away, an hour before you go to bed? Are you going to bed at the same time? Are you waking up at the same time? If you're not getting enough sleep during the week, then you're building up a sleep debt. So are you sleeping a little bit more on the weekends to compensate for that debt or your non-working days? So just being regular with your sleep can do wonders for your mental health. And all these things together, they don't have to take up hours and hours and hours of your time. Writing down 3 things you're grateful for can take, a minute, 2 minutes? Going to bed regularly just requires a little bit of discipline. Waking up on the time takes a little bit of discipline. Going for a walk every morning, just, around your apartment complex or around your neighborhood. How long does that take? 20 minutes? So, doing these things together can dramatically improve the foundation. That's really what we're talking about. Like I said, these are the things that feed the foundation. Using like a house as a metaphor, I mean, I remember seeing like a house when I was in real estate where the foundations were crumbling, like literally, like they were broken. And for those who may not know, at least here in Iowa, I mean, if we're talking about fixing a foundation, we can be talking easily into the five figures kind of right away. I mean, $10, $20, $30,000 like immediately. So that's what the house is built on. So why aren't you taking time to regularly revisit some of those things? And again, these aren't the things that you're going to see. You're not going to say, like, I love this gratitude thing that Jacob was talking about. So I'm going to write 3 things down that I'm grateful for right here and now, and I'm going to be perfect. I'm going to be great. You're not going to get crazy immediate results. But these are the things that are small and incremental growth that will ultimately lead to the things that you ultimately want. And when things get tough in business, when things get tough in life, if you have a strong and solid, well-built foundation that's regularly fed, then those things, they may not be easy, but they will be easier than if you hadn't done these things, if you've been ignoring these things. Now, the mistake that people can make a lot of the time is we wait until we're on fire, meaning we're waiting until we feel like we have the time. We're waiting until like all the business is built all the way that we want and things are, bucking and driving and clicking right along. And then we'll start worrying about our gratitude. We'll start worrying about our sleep. We'll start worrying about our spiritual practices and all this other stuff. We need to start doing these things now. Build up the muscle of consistency now with these things. And ultimately you will see the results that you want. So really, the thing I want to leave you guys with is this. I've been talking about the foundation, right? And that's what I decided to call this particular strategy, is feeding the foundation, because it's what we're built on. I want you to think about the foundation, yes, but also think about the long term, meaning think about where you ultimately want to go and how you want to get there and how you want to feel when you get there. So what are you ultimately building towards? And it's easy to forget when we get caught up in the whirlwind of the day-to-day. I mean, when you got like 4 or 5 calls and you got this emergency and this client and that employee that's not showing up and all that kind of stuff, it can get a lot. So just take a few minutes every single day to work on at least one of these things. Because feeding the foundation is the preventative maintenance. It's going to the dentist every 6 months. It's going to the doctor every year. It's some of those things to make sure that ultimately we're not struggling when things start to get dicey. Now, I know it's boring. A lot of it's boring. But what I've learned in my personal life and my professional life is that success is boring. Meaning that we tend to build it up in our minds that success is going to be this crazy exciting thing, and it can be at times, absolutely. But more often than not, it's showing up and doing the same stuff kind of day in and day out and doing it, it's boring. So just do it anyway. Because that's ultimately what we're trying to drive towards, is consistent success. It's boring, it's quiet, but it does work. You don't build resilience in the spotlight, you build it in the shadows, brick by brick. So here's your homework for today, you guys. I want you to pick one of these strategies, whether let's say it's gratitude, for example. I want you to pick gratitude, or pick sleeping and say, hey, I'm going to go to bed at 10 o'clock tonight. Or here's my 3 things that I'm grateful for today. You know what? You're feeling like really gangster about this stuff? Kick me an email. Send me an email at jacob@jacobhickscoach.com. Send me an email and say, hey, here's my 3 things I'm grateful for today. Hey, I walked, 10,000 steps today. Hey, I'm going to bed at 10 o'clock today and tomorrow on the next day. Send me that and let me know, because I'd love to hear from you guys. Now, as always, listen, thanks to you guys so much for listening. It does really mean a ton to me that you guys take a few minutes out of your day to sit down and reflect on some of the strategies that I've built over my career. I'll see you guys next time.